I blessed a, what is it called? A bearded dragon, a lizard. So a blessing, it depends on what type of blessing it is. Obviously we say like grace before meals, where we ask God to bless our food. And then we have the blessing of sacred items, things that we use to pray, like Bibles or rosaries. We have the consecration of the altar in a church that is blessed by the bishop. And we have the blessing, many blessings for different people, including blessings for maybe couples that have been married for a long time. So there's all these different blessings. The important thing to know is that a blessing is not a sacrament, but it's a sacramental. So the sacraments are visible signs that actually affect, that actually change the reality, and they work by what's a principle that's called ex opere operato. So the sacrament, in a sense, it always works. It always does what it says it's going to do. And those are the 7 sacraments of the church, especially ministered by the priests and deacons and the bishops. And those are efficacious in a more clear and certain way. And those are the ordinary means of grace that Jesus provided for the church. Sacramentals also have a sign quality. They often bear some resemblance to the sacraments. So for example, blessing yourself with holy water is a sacramental, and it's of course a reminder of our baptism, where we were baptized in water. So the sacramentals don't just confer or give us grace in the same direct and sure way that we can count on the sacraments to do. The sacramentals are meant to dispose us to receive God's grace. And because they're meant to dispose us, the sacramentals work in proportion to our faith. Now, a blessing is a sacramental. A blessing is not a sacrament. It is a prayer. Sometimes they resemble the sacraments, and often we'll usually sprinkle something with holy water as part of a blessing. But a blessing is a prayer. It's a request to God for some benefit, for some grace to be given. So when we bless our food, we're asking that it would nourish our bodies, that it would be safe, that no one would get sick from the food, and that it would nourish us to be able to live a healthy life, to glorify God. When we bless people, we're often asking for their health, for their well-being, for their spiritual well-being. There are some blessings that are very special in that they reserve certain items, like they set them aside for use in prayer or even use in the liturgy, such as the blessing of like the priest's vestments or the blessing of a chalice. And we even have the blessing of the bread and the wine. If you remember from Mass, we have after the offertory, at the offertory we have the blessing of the bread and the wine, because it's being set aside for a divine purpose, for the purpose of worshiping and praising God. And so because the blessings have all these different purposes, it doesn't really make sense to just think, why don't we just bless everything? Because it would be like saying, why don't we just ask God to do the same thing with everything? Because that blessing is a prayer for a specific purpose. So we wouldn't want our McDonald's food to be set aside for the worship of God necessarily. It's nothing against McDonald's. But things have different purposes. For the same reason, like we wouldn't give the same kind of blessing to a grade schooler that we give to a couple on the occasion of their 50th anniversary. Because that blessing is not just it's not magic. It's not just conferring some kind of divine power on something, or just this generic blessing. It is a specific prayer. It's asking God to bless that person or that thing in a special way, so that the person will become better disposed to receive God's grace. So for example, many people have their cars and their homes blessed. That's a prayer. That blessing is a prayer, a petition to God to protect all the people who ride in that car, all the people who live in that house, and to ask that as they spend time in those places, that they would be well disposed to receive God's grace. So we can and should have many things blessed, especially those things that we maybe have set aside for our prayer, like holy pictures, rosaries, Bibles, things like that. But we don't want to just generically bless everything. And we have to remember that God is the creator of everything. So there's a real sense in which he already has blessed everything by creating it and by loving it. He loves his creation, and he loves each of us.